riffs are too repetitive, the lyrics make no sense. All the songs are B-sides and the cover art's a mess. There's so much here to tear apart. Listen to it for a week, now that week has passed. It's Why I Hate This Album podcast with Tim and Garrett.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Why I Hate This Album. I am one of your hosts, Garrett Harvey. With me as always, Amelia to my Earhart, Timothy Richardson. Tim, how you doing?
I'm doing great this week.
And why don't you tell the folks at home why you're doing so great?
Because our album was less than 70 minutes for a change. This week, we are going to be talking about Toby Tobias Keith Covell's Unleashed, released July 23rd, 2002.
I don't think that's his name. We're talking Toby Keith. Tim, right off the bat, let's not waste a moment. Do you hate this album?
I do, but with a huge asterisk.
Explain your asterisk.
I hate it, but not for any of the reasons that I definitely should hate it. The songs on here that everyone has a huge reason to hate are not what makes me hate this album.
Intriguing.
Yes. I do hate Toby, and you will never again ride in my car without hearing this album. So that'll be fun for us. Do you hate this album?
I don't think so.
Ooh, hot take.
Yeah, it's tough to say. I am excited to explore that topic with you today. I'm really not sure. I don't like it. I can definitely say that. It's not good music. I try to divorce myself from just hating the album and is this music not meant for me? There is a difference. This wasn't as bad as I was expecting.
That's true.
In some ways, it was worse.
Well, yeah. And we can get into this in the general
we are getting
thoughts,
ahead of ourselves.
But it's divided up into boring songs and songs that are so ridiculous. It's like watching Con Air or Face Off, where, sure, this is bad and offensive, but it's kind of fun.
I'm not going to say Face Off because that's a...
Well, that's a masterpiece.
Right. This could be the Con Air of albums. I got you a bunny. Tim, is this the first time your Toby's been Keithed?
Pretty much. I mean, I'm aware of Mr. Keith, and I think I've heard the Angry American song. Possibly I've heard a parody of it that couldn't.
It would be hard to tell the difference.
Right. In fact, I think that I've been combining this guy in my head with Larry the Cable Guy into one fucking monstrosity.
Which one is more of a character, Larry the Cable Guy or Toby Keith?
Hard to tell. Yeah, what about you? Have you been Toby'd in your Keith?
I have, in fact, heard the Angry American song, the first one on this album, only because I was in college during 9/11 in Texas, so there were definitely people I knew that played this unironically. So I'm pretty sure I've heard that. Before we get into the general thoughts, let's go back in time. Take us on a journey to when a young Tobias Keith set out from the ranch and began his long journey towards ultra-stardom.
Toby Keith Covell, somehow Toby is not short for anything. He has a fairly good pedigree to be a country singer. He was born in Oklahoma in 1961. I had no idea that he was that old.
I thought he was much younger.
He moved back and forth between Arkansas and Oklahoma as a kid. He had an early interest in music. He got his first guitar at 8 years old. His grandmother owned something called Billy Gardner's Supper Club, and he would do odd jobs around the restaurant and get up on stage and sing between sets and sometimes play with the house band. He plays defensive end on his Oklahoma high school football team, which seems unimportant, but it will come back. And then he went to Villanova University in Pennsylvania from 1979 to 1980.
Yeah, just a hot minute.
Yeah. Apparently college wasn't his thing anymore pretty quickly, so he moves back to Oklahoma and he works on the oil fields starting at 20. He also begins a band called Easy Money with a couple of his friends. In the early 80s, oil work stopped being a thing in Oklahoma, and so he went off to play for this Oklahoma semi-pro football team that was a farm team for the USFL.
What do you know about the USFL, Tim?
Well, not much other than Donald Trump would single-handedly destroy the football league with his awesome negotiating skills a few years later.
He made football great again before he made America great by insisting that the USFL could easily compete with the NFL, thinking that surely when they saw a rating split that they would have a merger. And instead, nobody watched the USFL and it cratered.
I believe he got $1 from
Sounds
the legal shenanigans that went on afterward.
A little bit of foreshadowing for our economy here in the next couple of years, so get excited, folks.
Toby wasn't good enough to make it into the USFL, and so he went back to making music. In the early 90s, he moves to Nashville and starts busking, playing at some place called Hound Dogs, and he records a demo that absolutely no one liked. After failing, he went home, and according to legend, he promised God that if he didn't have a record contract by 30, he would quit music forever.
This sounds like the sort of bad plot for a movie that he would later star in.
He also gave his demo to a flight attendant who noticed somebody named Harold Shedd, an executive at Mercury Records, and ended up signing him. His career immediately takes off. In 1993, his first single, Should Have Been a Cowboy, hits #1 on the Billboard charts, and it would eventually go on to be the most played country song of the 1990s.
That's got to be just a real grain of sand in Troil's underpants.
Yeah.
Honestly, it seems impossible to be true, but that's what the research says.
His self-titled album was released also in 1993. He inexplicably, for the next decade, just has success after success. He releases almost an album per year, all of which do extremely well. All of them sell at least 500,000 copies. And again, we're talking about country music, so that's not a foregone conclusion. He releases a greatest hits album that I think, at least to this point, was his first country rap.
Yeah, so 1998, he releases a greatest hits album that has 2 original songs on it. The reason being is that these 2 songs were supposed to be on the new album, but his label hated them and told him to write better music, and so he decided to put them on the greatest hits. This was his first foray into what is just being casually called country rap now. Like, that's a thing.
He eventually joins DreamWorks Records, which is a joint venture for David Geffen, Steven Spielberg, and Jeff Katzenberg of The Little Mermaid, Aladdin, and Lion King fame. Each and every one of them are partially to blame for this.
Absolutely.
In 2002, we get this masterpiece, but I also want to note that during the time of this album's recording, he has this weird public feud with the Dixie Chicks. They made a few anti-Bush comments and then said his songs in particular were ignorant and made country music look ignorant. So he responded to that by putting all the backdrops at his concerts with fake photos of the lead singer of the Dixie Chicks hanging out with Saddam Hussein, which is a strong move.
Nothing petty about that.
And then the Dixie Chicks start wearing shirts with FUTK on them, which they claimed was Friends United in Truth and Kindness, but they would eventually admit that it was fuck you, Toby Keith.
For the sake of clarity, they really only said the first song on this album is what made country music sound ignorant. And you know me, Tim. I'm not the first one to agree with the Dixie Chicks about anything. They have a recipe for guacamole. I have a recipe for guacamole. I say mine's better. They say theirs is great. Agree to disagree. In this case, as we'll find out, I do in fact have to side with the Dixie Chicks. That first song does not make anyone who sings it sound smart.
That's true, but we will get there. I have a Snopple fun fact for you.
Fuck you.
He's also a pretty successful comedian. In 2017, he released an album called The Bus Songs, which included hits such as Shitty Golfer and Wacky Tobacco, and that topped the Billboard comedy album charts for 11 weeks. It made it to number 6 on the country album and 38 on the Billboard Top 200 charts.
Something that you touched on that I think will lead us nicely into our general thoughts for this album. Random compliment coming. He's a workhorse. No matter how much I hate his end product, he has worked tirelessly for the last 20 years to finally hone his craft of garbage.
Some other positive notes here. This album is, at the very least, the genre that it's advertised as. This is country music.
It's tenuous at times.
Sure, but there's not really rap. There's not big 80s guitar solos.
That's for sure.
A lot of the slower songs, they kind of seemed ripped off from a preceding generation of country musicians.
You're right. At its core, this is country music. And it is music. These are songs.
He also seems to write all of his own songs, which again, not really a compliment in this case, but it's something that we really haven't seen with country music that we've discussed this far.
Right. He definitely gets some help now and again, but I get the distinct impression they are all in the voice of Toby Keith. He's writing the majority of this work.
That was one of his arguments against the Dixie Chicks. I write all my own songs, and they were like, yeah, we know. The ideas in your songs are what we're talking about.
Let's talk a little more in specifics. It's a weird album, is it not? It's not what I expected.
Parts of it are. I hate it for being 60 to 80% terrible, slow ballads.
Yeah, the ballads, they wear on you.
But the embarrassing jingoism, the xenophobia, the true ugliness at the depths of humanity that are just on full display on this record at parts, it's bad, but that's the Con Air of this thing. If this was 12 songs of The Angry American and the Willie Nelson song, I might love this album. It would be so ridiculous and insane.
Yeah, way over the top.
That might be a winning country record in my book, but it's not.
I knew we were in for a treat when I saw the cover of the album. It's very straightforward. It's just a doghouse, and he's unleashed from his doghouse. It looks like a 9-year-old made it.
Yeah, it's a real Smash Mouth of album covers.
I think it makes Smash Mouths look inventive. This looks like whoever created it, they're like, okay, we have 2 hours, and you're only allowed to use clip art from Windows 95. Have at it. And that level of cheapness and lack of attention to detail is an excellent introduction into the music contained within.
Yeah, absolutely. The problematic songs, I guess we can call them that, they sound the way Fox News article comment sections would sound if you set them to music. When I was in high school in Houston, there was a radio station right as the Iraq War was ramping up. Pretty sure it was a country music station. In some sort of 1940s type contribution to the war effort, they were soliciting donations to purchase a missile or a bomb or something to get dropped on Iraq.
So it's like that name your star thing.
Yes, exactly.
You too can have your name written on a bomb for a bunker buster.
Yeah.
That's my bomb. I blew up Fallujah.
They send you back a nice dossier that details the lives of the families you've ruined specifically.
Certificate of authenticity for the murders that you were a party to.
That's right. I'm pretty sure that the military doesn't allow you to actually do this. So I assume they just stole whatever money was given, but still, it shows where your head's at, and it's not positive.
What's interesting to me is he was against the Iraq War. I can point to quotes. And he was a lifelong Democrat until around 2008-ish.
True, although he did support George Bush pretty heavily in 2004. But I will give him credit, he also had nice things to say about Obama in 2008. That blew my mind.
Right. Living in today's society, the idea that somebody could be even-handed, especially somebody in his position, about both people. And folks, for a little bit of context, Tim and I are basically the exact same way, fairly even-handed, just on the other side of things. They're both monsters that committed atrocities against mankind, right?
Yeah, that's accurate.
So, listen, we're happy to step on both sides of the aisle here. It's kind of funny because he could not support the military more, and we'll get into that later, but at the same time, he is able to draw a distinction between supporting people that are fighting for missions abroad and just fighting for the sake of dominance and hegemony, which is a distinction I would not have guessed that he would be able to make.
The Iraq War thing, I just have trouble believing. I've read the same quotes, but that really seems like Hillary Clinton saying she was against it. No, you weren't. In retrospect, you're against it, but at the time, questionable.
I'm less inclined to believe that he's lying. She clearly is lying.
Yes.
But less inclined to believe that he's lying only from the standpoint that that's not going to gain him fans. And he does seem to have a general attitude of, this is what I think, go fuck yourself. Good, bad, or indifferent.
Always bad.
That seems to be where you're coming from. Something else I want to touch on before we dig into the meat of this. As you know, I have always wanted to earn a Macarthur Genius Grant. And I really thought that reverse sneezer was going to be how I do it. Folks, if you're not familiar, I created a contraption that if you're in a quiet situation where it may not be appropriate for you to be sneezing, it's a small apparatus, no more than 12, 14 pounds. You strap it over your head, and should your body sneeze, it actually is a small pump that will then pump the sneeze back into your body. There were a couple of logistical issues. A few people had an exploded lung. Long story short, it didn't get me the grant. However, this show is potentially going to get me that Macarthur Genius Grant because Toby Keith sits as another missing link in my unified theory of the de-evolution of modern country music. I can draw a direct line from Troy Brooks to Toby Keith to Florida Georgia Line. Now, I am sure there are more people in this step ladder to failure.
Blake Shelton is in there.
Absolutely, Tim. Thank you. Blake Shelton sits just between Toby Keith and Florida Georgia Line in my mind. And the more that we do this show, the more I'm able to flesh this argument out. From the moment that hair metal ended and half of the rock group went over to the countryside, you can see these incremental steps that were made to bring down and neuter country music.
Now, I just want to say, if you win a $500,000 Genius Grant, you have to share half of that.
I will
with
be
me.
giving you exactly as much money as you give me for those very obvious product reads you do during our show.
That seems out of character. You're a generous person, I know that.
Right before we turned these microphones on, you were literally screaming in my face, "You selfish bastard, that's why you get nothing." And now we turn on the microphones, and suddenly I'm a generous person, and we're good friends, and there's no problems. There are problems, I am not generous, and we are not friends.
Two of those things hurt very deeply. I'm gonna need you to say we're friends before we can continue.
That's funny, because I was willing to budge on two of those things, but one of them I ain't budging.
You gotta say it. There will be no song by song.
We'll see if you get me there. That's the best I can do.
You're saying that you will become friends with me again, and I'm using your words here, if I get you there.
No. Nope.
Challenge accepted.
I guess I'm a little at fault for this now. You know what, while we're on the topic, Tim, could you please stop wearing the Daisy Dukes?
I told you, every time we do a country album, you get noops.
I had a feeling they were coming. I sent you an email. I left you 3 voicemails begging you not to wear the Daisy Dukes. And here we are, Daisy Dukes, cowboy hat. It's an interesting choice that you wore boots.
How do you feel about the way I have tied my shirt in the front?
I don't think you need to describe it. I'm sure everybody knows exactly what you've done with your shirt. Let's just suffice to say there are no mysteries about the hairiness of your midsection now.
Yes.
Suspiciously smooth. Track number 1. Courtesy of the Red, White, and Blue, in parentheses, the Angry American.
I think we should start this off by apologizing to any non-American listeners.
We're not all like this.
But this is somehow not the most problematic song on this album. We should be clear about that. He's the sort of person that seems to think that American foreign policy should be based solely on how he personally feels at any given moment. And unfortunately, that was also our president at the time's viewpoint. And unfortunately, that got us, "I'm angry, so let's go kill Saddam Hussein. That'll end well."
Tried to kill my daddy. Terror.
This makes Axl Rose look really smart. This song posits that the U.S. was just sort of hanging out, keeping to itself, when terrorists struck the first blow on 9/11, and then it's time to put a boot in somebody's ass.
Exactly. Let's start there. Let's take the line, "A mighty sucker punch came flying in from somewhere in the back." Mm-hmm. Now, isn't that the kind of language that at least in some small way contributed to a terrorist organization trying to seek a bold and brash statement on the world stage?
The other thing about that statement in particular, the sucker punch part of it, not only does that ignore that the U.S. may have been up to no good in various regions over the past, we'll say, century, but it also ignores a whole slew of things. The 1982 Beirut bombing, Khobar Towers, USS Cole, Kenya Embassy bombing, etc. It seems to think that 9/11 was the first incident of terrorism to ever occur. So whenever they call it ignorant, I think, by definition, this is ignorant.
He might be uninformed. He might not know what he's talking about. He might have completely forgotten about numerous previous terror attacks where several people were murdered. But I'm sorry, what was the fourth thing you said? He's definitely not. You know what? He might be a little ignorant.
Yes.
Can you believe this song was only written in 20 minutes?
Yes. Yes,
Of course you can.
I have a fun Tim fact if you'd like to hear it.
I'm a little nervous, but go ahead.
When I was 8 years old, somewhere in there, my dad and I missed witnessing a small-scale terrorist attack in Saudi Arabia, or possibly Bahrain, by about an hour. Somebody had driven a car loaded with a small amount of explosives into like a security shed, and we drove by whenever it was burned and partially demolished. And my dad, not wanting to tell me at 8 that there's just a whole bunch of people in the world that will blow you up for absolutely no reason, told me that it was just a car that ran into this place and had caught fire. So this then, of course, backfired whenever I was terrified for several years of getting into a fender bender because I thought the Hollywood trope where cars are just constantly exploding anytime they get into wrecks was based on reality. I thought that was real for years.
That's awesome. You're just constantly in fear of your car exploding.
That's right. Turns out, gotta load it with a bomb first.
Yeah, there's a step 2 in that chain of events. Wow. This is a Mad Libs of American symbolism so jam-packed into a single song that he found himself having to make up new American representation in order to make it even more America. Uncle Sam, the Army, the 4th of July, Eagles, and my personal favorite, something I've literally never heard in my entire life, Mother Freedom?
That sounds like kind of a communist concept, I think.
It certainly rings communist to me.
Yeah, some choice lyrics on here. And the Statue of Liberty started shaking her fist. We'll put a boot in your ass, it's the American way. And man, we lit up your world like the 4th of July.
Celebrating murder. I mean, Sometimes you gotta go out there and you gotta fight a war. I'm not saying that we're pushovers and we should just take it and there should be world peace. Lord knows that's not gonna happen. But we don't have to write like super excited songs about death, right?
Yeah, I mean, we should.
You know what? I was wrong.
Have you heard that national anthem?
I don't think that's the point. In this first song, you get a real sense for his joy and love and respect for the military. And we have some military listeners, so I certainly appreciate it. Lord knows my tactics of running the opposite direction of the enemy isn't going to save this country. But where I have an issue is that I thought for sure when I got the research back from the boys at the lab, I was going to find out this guy spent at least an hour or so in the military.
Oh, yeah.
And he didn't, and that's fine. You don't have to have been in the military to appreciate it. Not by a long shot. In fact, I think if you've never been in the military, you might have to appreciate those folks even more. But I stumbled onto a quote that, Tim, I'm just going to say it. It's gross. When asked by several reporters over his career, hey, you never served, how come you never served? You seem to love the military so much, why don't you get a gun and shoot a bunch of stuff? He has said, I've been on some bases, on some front lines that a lot of enlisted people haven't. I have soldiers and Marines ask me, where did you go? And I'll tell them. And they're like, dang, I haven't even gone up there. And they'll ask me questions like, was it dangerous? What did it look like? How far from air support were you?
First of all of that is bullshit. Nobody's asked him that.
Of course not, because they're actually doing it.
Right. That's some weird fantasy nonsense that like a child would come up with.
Yes, that reeks of a lie right off the bat. And listen, we don't want to cast aspersions. That's not what this show's about. We're not about wild theories. So I'm not going to sit here and say that he's stealing valor. I will say he is leasing valor. Because he is, I think there's some payment back. He does go out and he does a lot of shows. And I know when you're stationed in the middle of fucking nowhere, even Toby Keith will get you a little excited for something that isn't a man screaming at you to go dig another latrine. So I get it. There's some payment there. He's going out there and he's trying his best to entertain folks. But he appears to be taking some credit for military success despite being a singer.
He does. Let me read some other quotes from him. They're not quite as gross, but I'm sure they're just as false. He was giving the story behind recording this song, and he said that he was initially against recording it. He said that he only wanted to play it live. Then he played it for the Pentagon, not kidding, and apparently the Marine Corps Commandant said, this is Toby quoting this man, the head of the Marine Corps. You have to record this. You can serve your country in more ways than one, besides suiting up for combat. It's your duty as an American citizen to record this song. It's your job as an entertainer to lift the morale of the troops.
That didn't happen.
I can't say that it didn't happen. I can say seems unlikely.
It seems very unlikely. I'm going to say it didn't happen. I'm going to say he's lying.
Let me say it this way. There's a chance that that's true. The way that could be true is if he played this for them and something about the way he came off to this guy, it came off like maybe there was something off about him. Maybe he wasn't all there.
Oh.
And so this guy was like, hey, buddy, hey, man.
Good job.
Yeah,
Good job.
You can serve your country with this song. I mean, you don't meet the requirements mentally to be in.
We're not going to give you a gun.
Yeah.
No weapons for you.
No, but
hey, you can totally... It's like when a little kid is helping daddy
exactly
build a doghouse that's then going to be on the cover of Toby Keith's Unleashed. You ready to move on?
Before we do, care to guess how many copies the single of this sold? 1.5 million copies.
What's worse, Tim? Buying that single or buying this whole album?
If you buy the whole album, there's a chance that you hate this view and just have bad taste in music, and so that's better.
Plus, I don't know how much a single is. I know how much a single is on iTunes, but I have no idea. Well, now I don't even know where you'd go. But
in 2002, though, whenever probably a good portion of that 1.5 million were sold, that's people buying it on CD with, maybe a live version of I don't know what the single included with it. I didn't bother to look that up.
Nor should you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's like a $10 investment. What a crazy markup.
Yeah.
CDs cost 20 cents to make. Track number 2, Who's Your Daddy?
We have to talk about the word daddy used in the sexual context, right?
Right, and before we dive into it, this is the first of what will be many song titles that were ripped from completely overused slogans on 90s sitcoms. But yes, let's get to the crux of the matter. Once again, we have a song that is using the word daddy in a sexual context, and I'm not okay with it.
This is as bad, if not worse, than Mike Pence or Ronald Reagan calling his wife mother. If you don't think that's acceptable, if you think that's creepy, you should also not be okay with this.
You know what? I'm even going to give Reagan a pass because he was born in like 1904. So that at least makes some sense. Mike Pence is a creep.
If you're a female listener, imagine your husband or boyfriend calling you mommy in an attempt to be sexy.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
It's it's the most upsetting. Daddy is not an acceptable thing to say. You shouldn't be okay with any of this.
Folks, I can't believe I'm going to ask this. As gentlemen out there, try to call your girlfriends and wives mommy once and hit us up on Facebook and Twitter. I want to know what the reaction is. And if any of you get a divorce as a result of it, I'm so sorry.
If any of you get stabbed in the face, also sorry.
But I'm just curious to see if anyone gets away with it. Because if you're looking for a way for me to become the opposite of aroused in 0.04 seconds, have me say mommy to someone or have someone call me daddy. Now, Tim, here's a socially curious question for you. Is it weirder for a couple gents who are in a loving and monogamous relationship to call one another daddy, or is it weirder for a male-female coupling?
It's hard to know.
No. I mean, we're just guessing here. We can't know.
If it's a gay couple, it's at least an even playing field because, like you said, they could each call each other daddy. Still weird, but if your girlfriend is calling you daddy, like we discussed, there's no recourse. That's a divorce or getting stabbed in the face if you call her mommy.
God, that would just be so weird.
I want you to call me mommy. No.
You're going to have to leave.
I'm gonna trap you in this house and burn it to the ground. That's how your life ends.
That's aggressive.
It's not aggressive enough.
Just remove yourself from the situation's probably sufficient. Probably don't have to murder anybody. Boy, that's creepy. Well, let's talk about something slightly creepier. What's going on in this song?
I have a couple of theories. One, I got the money if you got the honey. Just taken by itself, it seems to be him bragging about how into prostitutes he is.
Okay, so that's my first question. Is he paying this woman for sex? Because the second line is, let's cut a deal, let's make a plan. What?
But there's also the part before this gives it that sort of Florida Georgia line-y kind of thing where it seems to be an advertisement for the notion that if you're going through a rough patch in your relationship, he'll fuck you. He's game. It's who's the one guy that you come running to when your love life starts tumbling?
Well, so this is where we get into the neighborhood where I know Lena Dunham's just going to be furious. And it's not the only time in this song, but I think he's postulating here that in order for a woman to support herself, she must find herself in a relationship where a man can provide for her.
Oh, she is not going to care for that.
Leans, I know. Pause the podcast, take out your headphones, go get yourself a green drink. Just put this out of your mind, maybe play some Enya, come back. We promise we won't stay on this too long. All right, that was just for her. The arc of this song is that this woman can't hitch herself to a man to provide for her. There's the line, I guess those college boys all went home for the summertime. So first of all, before we even dig into this bizarre sex for money bartering, I gotta ask, how old is this girl and how old is this guy? I think everything's legal. Well, except for the prostitution. At least from an age perspective, it's legal, but it's weird, right? He's taking advantage of a younger woman.
Yes.
So I think this girl might be in college. You know, hey, we've all been poor at some point in our life. I know I was in college, had almost no money whatsoever.
Oh my
at one
God,
point.
where is this going?
Not where you think it's going.
Let me ask you this. Just a simple yes or no, I'll never bring it up again.
Great.
Have you ever exchanged sex
Yes.
for money, hold on,
Okay.
with Toby Keith? Should have been a hard no. Anything other than a hard no is a yes.
We did not exchange names.
I mean, he's a famous man, though. You know who he was.
Now, like I said, I've never had my Toby Keith before this week. Well, I guess I have. I didn't realize.
Yes. Let me
Keith
read
did
the
hard.
genius annotation for, I guess those college boys all went home for the summertime.
Oh, boy.
The female character has recently got out of college, but none of those college men wanted her, so she's off to Toby Keith's house. Lucky. It's unclear who the lucky person in this is.
Yeah, I don't know. Boy. So I don't want to dwell too much. So we've got a girl fresh out of college. She doesn't have any money. She has not found a stable provider. So it's off to Toby Keith's house. And that's when he hits her with this line. Everything is waiting inside for you. He's got some sort of like weird sexual setup thing, doesn't he?
He's got a room, like a room
Yeah.
that visitors, the guys that are coming over to drink beer and watch football, they don't get to see that room.
Well, no, he doesn't. He's not paying those gentlemen.
It is a secret and it is a soundproof room.
Oh, God, it's soundproof?
Oh, yeah.
It's going to get loud.
Jesus Christ. So the line... Okay, I'll wait.
Oh, you're disgusting. Oh, yeah, no, you said it perfectly. He's got a room. There's attachments and... and...
Oh, and you know the worst part about the whole thing is you're all fucking strapped in and unable to leave, and then Toby Keith walks in naked. And he's got expectations. You've already taken the money.
Yeah. I feel like he's not completely naked. I'm feeling like he's a shirts on, no sleeves kind of guy.
That's worse.
It's not better.
Let me do one more genius annotation here. This is for, I got the money, if you got the honey, let's cut a deal, let's make a plan. Keith wrote the song about a sugar daddy's relationship with a girl. The sugar daddy is telling the female character that he'll give her anything she wants as long as she can provide sexual service to him. Then in parentheses, honey equals sweet love. According to Toby Keith, this song tells the story of a struggling relationship between a girl and her sugar daddy. They just keep using that word. Keith also stated the tune was everything he wanted in a song. It was so catchy that the band wanted to keep on playing it. The total take was way longer than the song itself, but it had to be cut down to regular size.
Yeah, the original length of this song clocked in at 10 minutes.
Good God.
I feel like there's a whole bridge that we didn't get where he breaks down what's in that room.
The only other thing I want to say here, who's your daddy, who's your baby, who's your buddy, who's your man, and sometimes the last one is who's your friend. The word buddy seems like a very odd addition to that.
Yeah, it's got a very creepy connotation. I don't want to get into it. I'm just going to say the word grooming, and you take that to mean whatever you want it to.
You've explained it before.
Yeah. The only other line I would like to address in this song, and not the, well, maybe the most offensive, leans, prepare yourself, trigger warning. Here's the lyric. And you're looking right, looking good, looking like a woman should. Tim, You know what? I should have warned you. How dare he, right?
Yeah.
How dare he try to define what a woman should look like? Let's move it along. Track number 3, Good to Go to Mexico. Were you worried you were going to like this song in the beginning?
I was worried.
It opens like a classic country song, and then it turns into some sort of bizarro Jimmy Buffett song.
Yeah, but there's a lot of country albums, specifically kind of the Texas to Oklahoma style of country. A lot of albums has a song like this.
It reminded me of so many weird things. I might as well just rattle them all off right now. It reminded me less of a Jimmy Buffett song and more of a Coconut Pete song, specifically Pina Colada Burg, from the movie Club Dread. Like a knockoff Jimmy Buffett song. It also reminded me of the hit Disney classic, one of the only 3 Disney movies I've ever seen, The Little Mermaid, Kiss the Girl. And for those of you that were raised by a television and watched every single movie that came on, it reminds me of several very lengthy merengue music scenes in the film My Blue Heaven, starring Steve Martin and Rick Moranis.
These are all references I don't get.
Yeah, that sounds about right. If we get some real big My Blue Heaven fans out there, some heaven heads, you know what I'm talking about. There are multiple scenes where they dance to a merengue beat. Because this isn't really mariachi.
It's got some of those island beats to it.
Yes, it has a vaguely island beat. Nail on the head, Tim. It has a cool island beat.
We gotta melt their hot hearts with a cool island song.
Yes, and that's what he's doing here.
The song is basically about how Oklahoma's not too nice in the winter, but don't worry, we can just spend the next 4 months in Cabo.
He espouses the glory of Cabo over the Caribbean, which I don't agree with.
He mentions Cancun as not being good enough for him.
So let's go to Cabo.
To Baja in that verse. I'll take the Baja sun, it ain't overrun. With the gringos and the turistas, we might be the only ones. If he's not the perfect definition of somebody that locals would derisively call gringo, I don't know who is.
Yeah, he is the quintessential American, as he spent the entire first song outlining for us. You know what song this reminds me of, Tim? I know you're going to get this reference. Cuban Pete from The Mask.
Oh, yeah. I love that
There you
movie,
go.
and it sure does.
I knew I could find some sort of cultural touchstone for your weird childhood. Before we move on, Tim, this gave me the opportunity, because we want to be responsible on this show, and we certainly wouldn't want to give everyone the idea that it's safe to go to Cabo, and so I did a little research to make sure that was still a safe location down in our southern border to go visit and enjoy on your vacation. And I'm happy to report it is. There are no current travel advisories. But what I did stumble upon is the U.S. government has provided us with a list of safety tips when visiting Mexico. Would you like to hear those tips so that you too can stay safe while you're partying in Cabo with what I assume will be Sammy Hagar?
Absolutely.
All right.
And it will
Tip
be.
you love a good Cabo Wabo. Tip number 1, stay on or around your resort's property. All right, well, that feels like it defeats the purpose, but okay. Stick to touristy areas. Don't travel too far away from that resort. I'm not joking.
Seems repetitive, but okay.
Repetitive, and they really don't want you to see the place you went to. Travel in groups, especially women. And finally, don't drive at night if you don't have to, and use main toll roads if you do. So big takeaway here, if you go to Mexico, make sure you don't ever see Mexico. Speak to nobody that isn't on the property where you're staying. And for the love of God, make sure you're staying on a resort with big walls and guns.
Yeah.
Good tips, U.S. government. Good tips. Track number 4. It's all good.
This is jumping ahead slightly. I think we all need to be aware that Toby Keith is estimated to be worth between $500 million and $1 billion.
Yes, it is true.
In that context, this song makes no goddamn sense whatsoever.
No, this song doesn't make any sense. He is lamenting the downfall of humanity and washing his hands of the whole thing. Just saying I'm not going to worry about it. Everything's fine.
Well, sure. The lyrics here from the chorus. It's all good. It's all right. I'm going to sit here with my baby all night and let the troubles of this world roll on by us like they should. When you have that kind of fuck you money, the problems of the world are not your problems. Absolutely
Oh, I
not.
see what you mean. He could always just jump into a helicopter and fly to the moon.
Yes. But
I don't know what rich people do.
it also It's that. It's dying in space in a helicopter. Toby Keith also just has, again, considering that he's worth $500 million at least, just a bunch of lies in this song. I'm just a regular Joe with a beautiful girl, just getting by in a day-to-day world. We ain't got a lot, but we don't need anything.
Yeah, but you have everything.
Yeah.
You don't need anything because you got it. Your things have things. It's all gold-plated toilets and space helicopters.
God, I hope I have enough money one day to die just on the outer reaches of our atmosphere in a fucking helicopter, crashing to the ground.
This is the second song, as I mentioned, titled It's All Good, ripped from, I assume, a hilarious episode of Family Matters. These are sayings that people have not used in years, and I guess he's relating to the common man. I suppose that was probably the last time he had to brush shoulders with the average man. So people are still saying it's all good, right? Yeah, sure. Ironically, I learned this, Tim. It's all good was the official slogan of the NBA as late as 2001.
Oh, maybe he's just an NBA fan.
No, he's a WWE fan.
That's right, he is.
Surprising exactly 0 people. Anything else for this?
Nope.
All right. Track number 5. Strap in, folks. This is where it gets weird. Beer for My Horses.
Featuring Willie Nelson.
Take all the rope in Texas, find a tall oak tree, round up all of them bad
This
boys.
song, I mean, we should just come out right and say it. This song is pro-extrajudicial vigilante murder.
Yes.
The best way this song could be interpreted is he's advocating a bunch of Dexters to be running around killing criminals in secret. I would say Batmen, but there's quite a few pro-murder lines in here that make that implausible.
Yeah, you're right. I was going to say up top, he's at best pro-Batman, but that's not true. He's
Yeah.
pro-Batfleck. Batfleck kills people.
Yeah, but not in this way.
No, not in this way.
Take all the rope in Texas, find a tall oak tree, round up all them bad boys, not sure who's being defined here as bad
You
boys.
know.
Yeah, I do know.
You know.
Hang them high in the street for all the people to see that justice is the one thing you should always find. Holy fuck.
Yeah, this is not okay. You've got roving bands of people lynching folks on drunk horseback.
It's not pro-vigilante, it's pro-lynch mob.
Yeah.
Given who his audience is, I feel like this lynch mob thing that he wants to be commonplace again is going to move from publicly hanging criminals without a trial, or possibly after their trial where they were found innocent. It's going to move from that to hanging black people without a crime pretty quickly. The specific people he talks about, the evil forces, if you will, they're gangsters and they're people who blew up a building, which is clearly code for black people and Muslims.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to read too much into this, but he makes it really hard to not walk away from this song assuming he wants to hang anybody who's not a white person.
Yeah. This song has kind of this cowboy thing, like, oh, this is how they did it back in the Old West, right?
Sure.
The very first line of this song mentions the 6 o'clock news. So it's clear we're not talking about back in the cowboy days that we all secretly wish we could live in for our own reasons. He's talking about 2002, he wants to hang a guy without a trial in front of everyone.
Right. Hey, Tim, they're a couple of bad hombres. I noticed that you made some allusions about folks wanting to live during the cowboy days for
Yes.
their own reasons. Mm-hmm. What does that mean?
I don't
Who wants
understand.
to live in the cowboy days?
I do. Everyone does. It'd be
No,
awesome.
I don't think everyone does.
Garrett, have you seen Westerns?
Yes.
That's what I want.
Just a rough and tumble group of fellas out on the range, no rules, just right, sleeping under the stars.
Yeah, all of this. All of it.
Huddled together for warmth.
Well, you don't want to be cold.
Right. Accidentally forgetting your sleeping bag and asking a fella if you can double bunk.
Well,
you know,
in all
for
honesty,
warmth.
for warmth, I think it would be smart if you only brought half as many sleeping bags as there are men. Because that way there's no temptation to take your own sleeping bag. It's mathematically built in.
If only there was just like some sort of one big sleeping bag.
You could
zip a couple of them together. You ever? Well, no one else wants that but you.
This isn't I shot a man in Reno just to watch him die stuff. He's also not saying there should just be vigilantes. In addition to advocating for lynch mobs, he's also advocating for police to murder people. We've got too many gangsters doing dirty deeds. We've got too much corruption, too much crime in the streets. It's time for the long arm of the law to put a few more in the ground, send them all to their maker, and he'll settle them down.
So he's pro-police shooting people and groups of citizens rounding up quote-unquote bad guys and hanging them.
But here's the best part. In his version of the U.S., you never have to worry about the police being confused that these vigilantes are in fact the bad guys. Do you know why?
I have an idea, but why do you
Yeah,
think?
you do.
Why does he say?
Oh, he doesn't say. It's just...
Oh, well, you can't say it. It's just implied.
Right.
So, Tim, I saw a rousing live performance of this song. Can you guess what appropriate venue I saw this on YouTube? The pre-inauguration concert.
Oh my
for
God.
2016.
This was the one that, if I remember correctly, people were giving Garth Brooks shit for not playing that.
Correct.
Yeah.
Toby Keith doesn't say no. And he sings his weird vigilante justice song as the president pretends to understand what music is.
Willie Nelson didn't go, right?
No.
Okay.
No.
How the fuck did Willie Nelson get talked into this?
You can talk him into anything now. He's like 70 when this came out.
So old and so high.
Yeah, it's not hard.
Fair enough.
You just have to come to him.
There was also a movie based on this song.
That's where I was headed.
It's so goddamn good. This song
What?
lacks any understanding of moral ambiguity, but let me tell you something. No Country for Old Men really explores that aspect, and kudos to the Coen brothers for seeing into the complex subtext here.
No, wait, no. You think No Country for Old Men is based on this song? I think you know what? I think you confused a couple things. There is a movie based on this song, but it is also called Beer for My Horses.
Ah.
That is exactly as disturbing as the lines that we have been talking about so far.
Let me do a quick Google, get on the same
Okay.
page here,
Sure.
and I'm back. All right, go ahead.
Right. So, a couple facts about Beer for My Horses. Let me give you the tagline. Vigilante justice. It's a real blast.
Jesus Christ.
Yep.
Holy
Vigilante
shit.
justice, it's a real blast.
It stars Tobin, Willie Nelson, Rodney Carrington, and do you know who else?
No.
Mr. Ted Nugent.
I should have known that.
You know, obviously I watched the wrong movie for this episode, but I did just now read up on the plot, and it's about a group of Oklahoma sheriff's deputies who hunt down and murder a Mexican guy. So I guess maybe it's not all black people that they're referring to in the original song, who may or may not be a drug dealer, hasn't been convicted of a crime. And then they return and they face no consequences, and the townspeople cheer and buy them drinks.
Now, there are some black people in the movie, Tim. Now, granted, it's only one scene. The lead, Mr. Toby Keith, is headed to a truck stop bathroom on their road trip down to Mexico with his partner, and they both walk into the bathroom to see some black gentlemen loitering. Now, Toby doesn't take to loitering and instantly is very suspicious of these men, so as he stands at the urinal, he feels it entirely appropriate to take his gun out and set it on top as a warning. But don't worry, it doesn't get any more racist and bizarre than that. After he leaves, his partner in the stall next to the urinal is still, doing his business and begins singing the classic song Shout, performed by Otis Day and the Knights. Well, in what no one should construe as incredibly racist, all of the black people instantly in the bathroom begin singing back up and dancing and doing a full rendition of the song for the gentleman while he's pooping.
That, at best, seems unlikely to happen.
At best. At worst, it seems like a horrifically vague stereotype. Unfortunately, this movie got exactly 0 on Rotten Tomatoes.
That's good. This movie cost $10 million to make. It only made $800,000 at the box office. But on home video, this thing made $42.5 million.
Jesus Christ. Tim, how are we not making more money? There's no way I can't make as good or better movie than Toby Keith.
Garrett, your idea to get a Genius Grant was to kill people by exploding their insides.
That's not what the point of the machine was. It was a side effect.
But, okay, what percentage of people died immediately upon sneezing?
Define immediate. Like instantly?
Let me ask you this. What percentage of people, upon sneezing, immediately received an injury that then led to their death?
Oh, all of them.
Right. See, there it
And
is.
several rats and pigs. If I can just crack that nut, Tim, finally people will stop being embarrassed by their public sneezes.
Frankly, I think it's amazing that after all those test animals that it was okayed to move into humans. Like, the FDA really threw you a bone on that one.
Oh, I didn't. Was I supposed to talk to the
Oh
FDA?
my God. We have to delete all of this. No one can ever know.
Yeah, it's fine. They
You
all signed
killed
consent
like
forms.
10 people.
The machine did it.
Oh my God.
The re-sneezer.
After you sneeze, it just sneezes it back into you.
Yes, you get it now.
Jesus
We just need to
Christ.
figure out a way to reduce the force of the back sneeze. Tim, what are you doing after this? I want you to try something on
No.
and smell this pepper.
Track 6, Losing My Touch.
Not buying this anymore. My life
I think this is a song about the progression of his erectile dysfunction.
Wow. Tragic.
When it comes to your love, I'm losing my touch. At the bare minimum, it's about how he can't satisfy his significant other sexually anymore.
It could be emotionally.
It's not. It's never emotional with Toby Keith.
All right, honey, you get yourself ready and get in the room.
Oh my God.
I paid good money. Boy, you know what? You might not be wrong. You're not buying this anymore. My lies have come up short again.
I honestly didn't know what those meant. That sounds like a separate thing other than his obvious erectile
Well, no, maybe
dysfunction.
he was like, oh, you know what, honey, those oysters aren't sitting good with me. Maybe not tonight. You can only have horrific intercourse halting diarrhea so many days in a row.
That is untrue.
Clearly, you don't live near a Papa Do's.
The lines that you brought up, you're not buying this anymore, my lies have come up short again. To me, that sounds like he's implying she's correctly suspecting he's cheating on her. But given other songs on here, it sounds like, oh, hey, why didn't we bang tonight? Makes up some excuse. But really, she's kind of sure that he's out at night murdering criminals.
Perhaps his work has become his pleasure, Tim, and the reason he can no longer achieve an erection is because that he is only stimulated by the exciting and titillating act of taking another person's life.
Well, hope he doesn't find a way to combine those two.
Get in the room.
Oh my God. He also seems to see himself as some kind of elite in this
How
song.
so?
And I'll ease on down to the local pub, climb up on the tallest stool, holding court with my common sense, outwitting all of these common fools. He sees himself as some sort of bar king.
He might have the no-sleeviest shirt on, the most truckery hat. It's tough to say what makes you king of the bar.
Maybe having $500 million and the ability to buy anyone a drink.
It certainly is going to make you everybody's friend at the bar.
Yeah, but if you have that kind of money and you want the tallest stool and you want fools to listen to you, they will.
It's been my experience that all of the stools in the bar are the same height.
Well, he brought in his own stool that is slightly taller than everyone else's, and he makes them keep it there.
I'd like to think it's almost indecipherably taller.
He just has to know.
Yeah, it's more for him than them. Tim, you know what? I feel like it's been a while, and I can't hold it in anymore. I think it's time for another super ultra mega original Garrett Harvey fun fact. Not your bullshit Snopple fun facts ripoff bit. Fuck you, Tim. This is an original Garrett Harvey fun fact. Fun fact 22168-3. In 2005, Toby Keith opened Toby Keith's I Love This Bar and Grill in Oklahoma City, Syracuse, Tulsa, Thackerville, Auburn Hills, Kansas City, Las Vegas, Mesa, Peoria, St. Louis Park, Foxborough, Cincinnati, Newport, Pittsburgh, and Denver. A couple of follow-up items on this fun fact. A rare occurrence, we have a fun fact sub-fact. Fun fact sub-fact A. Most of those locations have now closed. Turns out the food's not very good. Fun fact sub-fact B, our in-the-field correspondent, aka my brother, has eaten at this restaurant in Oklahoma City while on business trips multiple times. When asked for a quote for the show today on what the food is like at Toby Keith's I Love This Bar and Grill, he said, and I quote, "It's exactly what you think it is."
Why did he keep going?
I don't think there were a lot of options near where he was staying.
There's gotta be, like, a Subway. That's not good.
And by that, I mean random food you find in an actual functioning Subway. Just head on down to the local train station or bus station and just, maybe they got a vending machine or someone's bound to have left a sandwich on a bench.
Yeah, bench sandwich sounds better than food that may or may not have been made by Toby Keith.
Well, it's a little known fact, but it's 100% true. Toby Keith does not wash his hands. And he's very upfront about it.
That feels right.
All right, track number 7, Huckleberry.
Yeah, I'll be your Huckleberry. You don't have to double dare me.
How many times have you heard somebody use the phrase, "I'm your Huckleberry"?
Once.
Exactly. Me too.
Yeah, he definitely stole this from Tombstone.
Right. I had to look it up. Apparently it's slang for "I'm your man."
Why did you have to look that up? Did you hear the song?
Because in the song, every time he said, "I'll be your Huckleberry," I was picturing Val Kilmer threatening a guy.
Oh.
And so the first 10 times I listened to this, I was just picturing Toby Keith on a porch with a gun held behind his back.
Okay, that makes some sense then. Yes. Doc Holliday was the one using it facetiously.
Yes.
Well, now you can enjoy this song and Tombstone more. The movie was forever ruined for me. I used to live with a guy in college that, I don't know if you ever did this, Tim, but he had what I call a drunk movie. So when he would come home just blackout drunk, he always put on the same movie, which is pretty common. I think I had a movie. Mine was, mine's not important.
Life Aquatic?
Royal Tenenbaums.
Oh.
But his was Tombstone, and he had a very loud sound system. So at 2 to 4 in the morning, or at least 4 nights a week, I got to listen to Tombstone from his room in my room.
This song also raises a very important question in the Toby Keith mythology, the Tobyology. Is Toby Keith afraid of roller coasters?
I don't know. Why are you asking?
Later on that summer, we went to the county fair. They had a brand new roller coaster and everybody was scared. It was $2 to experience the thrill. She said, "Come on, boy, let's get in line. I'll ride it if you will."
I don't think so. He might be, though.
When I hear that everyone was scared, I hear he was scared.
If you're ever being chased by Toby Keith, perhaps he's in a large mob riding a drunk horse, carrying a noose, escape to your nearest roller coaster for safety. Tim, I have something very, very special for this song.
Oh, God.
Earlier this week, you were looking for Brad, and I covered for him. I said that he was on a special project for the show this week, and you were furious, you cursed him, and if I understand correctly, you gave him a pretty solid thrashing when he got back, even though it wasn't his fault, and I don't have a problem in the world with that. But now I would like to reveal for you and the listeners this week what Brad was doing. I sent him on a special mission to the home of one Toby Keith because I had heard rumor of a secret verse to this song that was never released. And I am happy to report that for once in his life, Brad managed to fulfill his destiny and get us that missing verse.
Really?
I know. I threatened him within an inch of his life. In case you are unfamiliar with the song, folks, I'm going to give you the verse that precedes the alternate verse, and then I will read the secret alternate verse that was never actually said in the song. So the song goes, "Baby, I'll be your Huckleberry. You don't have to double dare me. If the world gets wild and scary, count on me to be right there. You're so extraordinary, sweet like maraschino cherries. We grew up and we got married. Now look at those 3 little huckleberries." That's the verse in the song, guys. Now, I got my hands on this alternate verse, and I gotta say, Tim, this is a much darker turn for this song. I think I understand why he didn't include it. So, here we go. "Baby, I'll be your Huckleberry. I'll stick around and we'll get married. But things, they're getting a little scary. I thought you were on the pill. She gained weight and her arms got hairy. Trapped me here like a caged canary. Marriage is so arbitrary. I just have to go. Thought you knew this was temporary. Now I'm leaving with my secretary. I don't mind if you remarry. Tell the kids I'm dead." I mean, I like that second verse. I'm not going to lie. It's edgy. It's not lynching edgy, but it's edgy. This is an exclusive, folks. If you see Toby Keith, ask him about the hidden verse in Huckleberry. You'll see his face get beet red. Personally, I wish he had kept it in.
Yeah.
I just feel like it's more accurate to real life.
Not his real life, though.
No, he's a faithful man.
Yeah. This is also the rare song about not getting to have sex. Went looking for some romance before I had to get her home. Steaming up the windows of my car, she said, until I get my wedding ring, boy, we can't go that far.
Well, now you understand why he had to get married.
Okay, no, that actually makes a lot of sense. So he gets married exclusively so that he can take this one particular girl to his room, the room.
Oh, God. I didn't even think about the room.
And then the whole thing is very begrudging. He doesn't want to marry her. And so eventually...
He just doesn't like to hear no.
Oh, my God.
And eventually, as all things that enter the room, he gets tired of his new toy and he leaves it.
Oh, good God. That's a good tagline for him. He does not like to hear no.
It makes that alternate verse make a lot more sense. Arguably more so than the one he kept in. Track number 8. It works for me.
Never owned a brand new car. I never worked in the white collar. I never held
This song does not represent who he is. Definitely not now, but I also think it's wrong for 2002. Let's go through verse 1. Never owned a brand new car. That can't be true. Never worked in a white collar. Maybe true, but white collar also doesn't pay as well as his actual job, and I'm pretty sure he ended up being a manager with the Oklahoma Oil Company, so I think just isn't true. Never held a woman longer than I held a single dollar. Untrue, he's been married to the same person since 1984, but also it seems to be hanging on to his money pretty well. I never went out chasing rainbows. That one checks out.
Well, how do you chase a rainbow?
You drive at it, or ride your horse, ideally, to it. Because there ain't that much to it. Actually, the physics behind rainbows isn't quite as straightforward as he would have you believe. Even if I found my pot of gold, he definitely did. I know I'd piss right through it. He definitely didn't.
Well, you know what, Tim? I'm going to try to defend him as best I can. Maybe he is, in fact, a lavish spender because he works like a demon. So he is constantly finding new sources for income. That might be what's going on here.
Buying women and such?
Well, yeah, I mean, he's got to keep building new and exciting rooms.
And populating those rooms with new and exciting devices. You know what?
You shouldn't call women devices.
I just found a buyer for your re-sneezer. Now, he's going to use it for something awful, but that's his business.
He's going to put it on his penis.
That's right, he is.
Oops.
Hey, you do not sully oops that way. It's not for Toby
You
Keith.
sullied oops with your genitals in my face.
I wouldn't say that's sullying.
I've just never seen somebody be so threatening with their body.
Have you seen Toby Keith?
Maybe. Yeah, it's hard to know this much about him and listen to this song without just getting kind of irritated.
Sure. He also has the lines, I don't dance out on the dark side, ain't no secrets I have to tell. Bullshit.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I've never seen inside that room, but it's just filled with dark secrets. In fact, I have seen the outside of the room. Scrawled in Old English writing over the doorway is the Room of Dark Secrets.
Oh, I was hoping you were going to say abandon hope, all ye who enter here.
Oh, God. That's on the inside. Let's go ahead and make the formal announcement. We've hit the chaff of this album.
Yes.
It only goes down from here. They get less and less interesting.
Track number 9, Ain't It Just Like You?
Take these memories with you, they're just sad and they're blue, and I don't.
The song has a weird U2 opening. It's kind of the start of what I would say is the Chris Gaines stretch of the album. It's country adjacent. There's some like noodling guitar in here.
Mm-hmm.
This song sucks.
I agree. Lyrically, it's a very Axl Rose type of song. It's the Toby's a great guy. He's the best guy, really. Everyone else is wrong, and he doesn't understand why people can't see it that way.
Yeah, this guy's a real doormat. This woman keeps walking out on him, and he just lets her. And then when she comes back, presumably after she's left the other Toby Keith, boy, Tim, let's connect these two. Obviously, Toby Keith is the star of every one of these songs, but there's one Toby Keith that his lady keeps leaving him, and then she goes off and he doesn't even bother stopping her. Then she goes and stays with the other Toby Keith that pays her for God knows what. And then eventually he gets tired of his plaything and throws his toy away, and she's forced to go back to that first Toby Keith, and he doesn't even bother asking where she's been or putting up a fight. He just says, yeah, okay, we're together again. I can't be bothered to try.
So you're positing some sort of Fight Club scenario where the Brad Pitt one treats her like shit and the Ed Norton one treats her sort of nicely, but it's also kind of confusing because he doesn't seem to know about the Brad Pitt guy.
Right, exactly. One of them is a doormat that she can walk all over, but he's at least nice, and the other one has discipline written above the door of the room that she doesn't like to go into. Time for another Garrett Harvey original, not to be confused with a bastardized, fun fact. Fun fact number 2261448. In 2009, Toby Keith started his own clothing line called TK Steelman. It looked a great deal like Affliction clothing and can no longer be purchased. There's a lot of eagles. There's a lot of America. There's a lot of badges on it. A lot of fake military badges. Once again, leasing valor. All right, let's keep this crazy train going. Track number 10, Rock You Baby.
Open conversation and a bottle of red wine.
This song starts out with how he approaches his victims.
Oh my goodness, we're calling them victims now?
Yes, we are. It starts out...
Hold on, I'm sorry. I just want to make sure we're on the same page. Why are they victims all of a sudden?
Because they want to go home with Toby Keith. They know him, he's famous, but they don't know what's in store for them once they get home. They don't know about the room.
They go in the room and they meet the Beast, a.k.a. Machine.
We gotta do some creative editing to avoid getting sued on this one.
Allegedly, or whatever.
Yes. I mean, this song seems like every woman's nightmare. The woman, she's sitting alone, she's upset, she's at a cafe, and Toby just comes and he sits down with her, which is not what she wants.
Every woman wants that. A random stranger to sit down with her at a restaurant and tell her she's too pretty to be sad. Why don't you smile, honey? They love that, right? Yeah, that's a red flag and a half. Boy, Tim, you know what? Now that you're calling them victims, it's making me look at these lyrics a totally new way. I'm going to shake your emotion right down to your soul, and then I'm going to love you all over, in and out of control.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, at the very least, there's some psychological manipulation here. I'm going to make you crazy over me. I'm going to hold you like you've never been held before.
Isn't that weird Japanese rope stuff?
And love you till you tell me you can't love anymore. Reading from my notes here, what the fuck does this even mean? Wait, have I never truly been in love before? Nope, he is the one who is wrong.
Yeah,
and I stand
what he's
behind
describing
that.
isn't love. Boy, you've changed my whole view on this. I was under the impression that he was mistaking somebody with a severe drug addiction for somebody with a broken heart.
That could certainly also be. He does come away from this experience thinking that he is a hero, whereas God only knows what she could think. But
I'm sure she's thinking, text a friend and tell them, if I don't text you again in 20 minutes, call the police. Here's my address.
Track 11, Rodeo Moon.
This is basically, from a musical perspective only, Elvis's Are You Lonesome Tonight? It's a simple waltz, but, so is many, many other country songs. I don't hold that against them. I just was wishing I was hearing that song instead of this song.
I forgot how you hear all music in dance steps.
Well, yeah. Doesn't everyone?
No. This is just a song about following a rodeo around, maybe. I don't know. I don't care.
Yeah, I don't really understand rodeo culture. I don't. I was
that might
very
be
confused.
The best thing you've ever said.
But seriously, do you follow a rodeo? The aspects of it that made no sense to me is it seemed like a traveling thing.
Yes.
That's the whole point, is that sometimes they don't have enough money for a hotel and they move from city to city. But are they following a rodeo, or are they just going from rodeo to rodeo? And who knew there were this many rodeos? Maybe it's all bullshit.
No, I mean, it definitely is.
Why are we wasting our time on it?
I don't know. Track 12, That's Not How It Is.
Can I know just how you feel? We don't touch at all.
This song also sucks.
It really does.
It seems to be about how he would do anything for a relationship and anything for his lady, but the other person isn't really carrying their weight. I kind of have to question, though, how his wife feels with him putting all this stuff out there.
Well, I don't necessarily know that this is autobiographical.
It doesn't matter if it is or not. Let's say you're married to somebody for 30 years and their business is going out and writing songs about how they're a good person in a relationship and who they're in a relationship with is kind of a dick. It doesn't matter if it's autobiographical, it still comes off as pretty shitty.
Yeah, that's true. Now, to be fair, they could have serious, deep structural issues with their relationship, and he just keeps coming back to her with solutions that aren't going to fix a goddamn thing. For example, I'd catch moonlight in a bottle if we could drink a toast to happiness. Well, that's literally impossible. Fill my pickup bed with roses and back it right up to your door. Okay, well, great. I'm going to be cleaning up roses in the driveway for the next 3 weeks. Please don't do that. I'd write your name in candy kisses from here to Carolina. What good is that going to do? And he has the money, Tim. Don't think he can't buy enough candies to write his wife's name in gigantic letters across multiple states. He could do it.
You're just not a romantic.
I'm incredibly romantic.
That's not true. You wouldn't catch moonlight in a bottle for anyone.
That's true. It's because I'm scared of the moon. You know that. We should stop making fun of me for it. Maybe the issue is the fact that this song in no way ever addresses his rooms.
Yeah, that is the one thing he's not offering. I'll get rid of that room for you.
Oh, Tim, let's not be foolish. It's rooms. They're themed.
Jesus Christ. I like that they're probably themed with, this is my 1993 record theme. This is my 94 record theme. Oh my God.
I hope they don't tie into that, because one's all just dog themed. Welcome to the Unleashed room.
Ugh.
See, let's hope you're wrong. Track 13, a special track that you guys at home might not have on your copy. Luckily, Tim and I did. It is a live courtesy of the Red, White, and Blue, aka the Angry American, introduction. Not the song, just him talking about the song.
How many Americans do we have in here tonight? In the days following September 11th last year, everybody that was a poet or a writer.
This is a person who included his own genius lyrics annotation on his album.
Yes, that's exactly what happened. It's ridiculous and self-indulgent and bizarre. He calls himself a poet.
Yes, he does. He also retells the story of his dad losing an eye for no reason.
Yeah, his dad did lose an eye. He was in the army. He lost it during a training exercise. And from what I've read, he didn't even know that his father was missing the eye. Don't know how this is possible, till he was 17 or 18.
I hope that means he had a glass eye and not
I believe. His dad's walking around with an eye patch, and he just never thought to ask what was under it. I don't know why this is on here. He opens it with, how many Americans do we have in here tonight? Seems needless and weird. And then calls himself a poet and tells the story we just mentioned. All right, I think we are done with this song by song. Why don't you let the folks at home know, how did it do? Did people buy this album?
This album has been certified quadruple platinum. It has 4 million sales in the US. It also hit #1 on the Billboard charts. No reason to go into those other countries that Garrett enjoys hearing about, because no one outside of the US would bother buying this. Overall, he's released 19 studio albums, not including 2 Christmas albums, 5 compilation albums. He has 40 million total album sales, 20 #1 hits on the Billboard country charts, and I haven't heard all of it, but I feel comfortable saying all of it is just awful.
He definitely deserves a revisit at some point in the future. I've enjoyed this immensely for all the wrong reasons.
Yeah. Also of note, he was on the cover of Forbes in 2013 as country music's $500 million man. They estimated that in 2013, he earned $65 million, and the past 5 years, he earned at least $48 million every year. God. I looked this up compared to some other people. During that time, he was making more money than Jay-Z and Beyonce. He is 100% going to end up as a billionaire for all of this horse shit.
That's amazing. I respect it. If I could create some garbage music and convince people to buy it, well, you know, we got Texas Toast coming. There's always Bottomless Soup. I feel like those songs are really bad. That's how it did. But what did people think of it.
Well, would you like to hear what Robert Christgau thought of it?
Oh, you know I would. All right, folks, if you're listening for the first time, this is a real treat. Robert Christgau, longtime music reviewer, like the last 40 years long time for every major publication out there, also happens to be a crazy person. Tim reads his review, and then he asks me, what rating did Robert Christgau give this album? And I try to put my mind inside that of a lunatic and guess what Robert Christgau thought of the album. So Tim, read that review.
With America lighting up one too many places like the 4th of July, I went back and tried to hate courtesy of the red, white, and blue like I oughta, but it was just too pithy and heartfelt. And the album still gave up a colloquial aptness and easy masculinity that I'd overlooked. But obscured by the uproar is a piece of work as immoral as One in a Million or Black Korea. No, worse. I can forgive duet partner Willie Nelson almost anything, but I'm appalled that he lent his good name to Beer for My Horses, which not only naturalizes lynching, but makes it seem like fun on a Friday night. True, the horses the mob rides evoke Hollywood West. There is too much corruption, but the racial coding of the term gangsters the song sends to their maker needs no explanation. And those evil forces who blow up a building ain't bomber pilots, now are they? You've got a pretty good chance of getting it right because he gave this 2 different letter grades.
So I think that he graded it B+ and C-.
No. B originally. And the second time around, inexplicably, he gave it an E. Which
what is an E?
I learned he doesn't use Fs.
Christgau, this one's on you, asshole. And that's the Robert Christgau game, right? There's no predicting.
Yeah, he might make up
happen.
A different letter that's never been used to grade anything before and just give it that.
And that's what makes it so fun. In all reality, I should never get it right.
No.
What about the man on the street? What did the fans have to say?
So on Amazon, there were 150 reviews. It got 4.5 out of 5 stars on average, and 81% 4 to 5 stars. The first one is entitled American Patriot, written September 11th, 2005. Maybe it's because I'm from Texas, and we Texans don't take kindly to foreign freaks attacking us, but I totally agree with every line written by Toby Keith in this powerful and patriotic song. Try to remember the aftermath of September 11th. The overwhelming surge of patriotism and the we will never forget attitude. This song was written in the aftermath of a very terrible event, and it reaffirms the pride that we have in our country. And those who mess with us are gonna get a boot up their ass.
I don't disagree with any of the things that this person has written, except this song represents those ideals. Like if this were a review about how people felt after 9/11, pretty spot on. People were terrified and way on board with getting together and just taking down whoever did it. But this song doesn't represent that. This song is everything that's wrong and leads to events like that.
We'll see if some other reviewers agree with that guy's assessment. Here's a little bit different one. It's called Just Plain Fun. First of all, ignore reviews of country music by pretentious people who detest country music because they feel threatened by country values and sensibilities. Toby is at his fun and unabashedly sexy best here. Who's Your Daddy is a fun, hysterical romp. I like that the girl who thought that she was too sophisticated for him comes back to him. That's fun. It's a bit of a fantasy for any dumped person to have the dumper who left them because they weren't good enough come crawling back. I challenge you to stand still through this tune. It's rare to find anyone who isn't swaggering by the end of this tune. His duet with Willie Nelson on Beer for My Horses is a great display of country sensibilities and normal people being offended by the lenient judicial system. Gee, vigilante justice, sometimes that seems like a good idea. Not a shortage of opinions or fun to be found in this place.
Yikes.
She's my favorite.
Yeah, that's terrifying. Any others?
Yes. This is by Amazon customer in 2003. It's called Wonderful, one of the best albums of all time. This is my favorite album of all time. I bought it for the track courtesy of the Red, White, and Blue. It is the only song, besides Daryl Worley's Have You Forgotten, that captures the truth behind the horrible events of 9/11. The sentiment is true. If you don't believe in what we're doing in Iraq, go somewhere else and whine. Maybe France will take you. They love cowards. They hit first, so we hit back. This is a song for real Americans. The rest of the album is excellent, but this song is the best song ever written. It is a song the coach sings to the troops before his football players hit the field, and it is the same in both instances. Boys, go get 'em.
It's just so fascinating to me that people just pick up like gift baskets of ideals. I like guns. I like Toby Keith music.
Dislike France.
Dislike France because they're cowards, Tim.
Well, no. They're not cowards. They love cowards.
You're right. I apologize to France. You are not cowards. You love cowards. Jerry Lewis, renowned coward. They love
Allegedly.
cowards. He's dead. We don't have to worry about it.
Listen, I've been sued by the estate of Jerry Lewis twice before. You say allegedly.
Yeah, that's true. They are legal beagles.
Allegedly.
We have to say allegedly when we're claiming people are litigious?
Yes. They will sue the shit out of you for that.
Our on-retainer lawyer is, well, let's face it, not great.
It's Brad.
It is Brad. Okay, Tim, this is starting to head towards a very predictable conclusion. Let me ask you, who is this for?
People that get their news exclusively for Fox News and Trump fans, I guess.
I'm going to say this song's for red-blooded Americans that's tired of sissies like you libbing up our society.
That's fair.
Let's wrap it up with some final thoughts. Now that we've kind of picked it apart, how do you feel about it?
I want to reiterate, if this were all jingoism and lynch mobs, I would hate it less than I do. Those songs, they're not good songs, but they're enjoyable to sit back and listen to and think, wow, somebody thought this was a good idea to record. And that same somebody has the financial means to get Willie Nelson on this song.
Yeah, he's got enough money to make Chinese Democracy 10 times over.
Ooh, you know what he should
Literally.
do?
Toby Keith does Chinese Democracy
10 times over.
Why? Because I can. I agree. It is wildly uneven.
Yes.
It's almost like he ran out of steam making the album. He's all drunk animals and lynching and eagles up top, and then by the latter third, it's traditional love songs, and his wife isn't committing properly to the relationship, no matter how many truckloads of rose petals he brings her. Let's not belabor it. Do you hate this album?
Yeah, I think I do. I am looking forward to the Toby Keith record that we listen to next week.
No back-to-back Toby Keith. I can't do it, Tim.
Fair enough. Do you hate this album? Did we get you there?
Yeah.
Really?
I'm there. I'm just barely there.
Oh, right on the edge.
Yeah, I mean, I just crossed the finish line. It's a whimper. It's no bang. You convinced me. It's not crazy enough to be crazy. It's like they set out to make Con Air, and then halfway through they tried to make American Beauty. Just horrifically uneven, and I don't understand why Chris Cooper's a Nazi.
I do.
So just from that alone, like, I can't enjoy it. So yeah, I think I hate it.
All right. So together, we both came to the conclusion we want more jingoistic nationalist songs on our albums.
If there's going to be any, I want it to be all. Otherwise, I don't want any. All right. As always, folks, we really appreciate you listening. The reviews are hilarious. Noticed a couple of Garrett's a sucker. Don't much care for that.
Yeah, that was great.
If it's you, Tim, I swear to God, I'm going to delete everything on your computer.
It's not me. But
that's not the game. I'm not going to let it bother me. But feel free to be creative. Some of you have put some really funny stuff. Some of you put some really nice stuff, which has made us super uncomfortable. But thank you. These reviews make such a difference. Every time you guys leave a review, we jump up in the rankings and we see a whole bunch of new listeners and we get a bunch of new feedback. And that's how we grow the show. Also by sharing it. Pester your friends, your mother, your teacher, your brother, your grandma. Maybe not your grandma. Thank you. You can always find us on Twitter. It's Album HatePod. On Instagram, it's HatePod. HatePod.com. You can reach out to us via email by hitting the contacts button in the upper left-hand corner. If you don't want to do that, you can go straight to Gmail by hatePodMail@gmail.com. Let us know if you have funny stories about these albums, if you have theories about these albums. If we can get enough of them, we'll read a whole bunch on the show. Anything I leave out, Tim?
I just want to say thank you to the people that defended me online by saying that Garrett is in fact the sucker. That was nice of you.
Hey,
I liked it.
Hey, shut up.
You do not treat me like Brad. Not Brad.
You're not Brad. You know what, Tim? You're not Brad. This has been Why I Hate This Album. I am one of your hosts, Garrett Harvey.
I'm the other, Tim Richardson.
The riffs are too repetitive, the lyrics make no sense. All the songs are B-sides and the cover art's a mess. There's so much here to tear apart. Listen to it for a week, now that week has passed. It's Why I Hate This Album podcast with Tim and Garrett.